Hello and welcome to the first video in the Be the Difference training series. I'm Caitlin and I'm so excited to give you this free 3-part training series to help you start your journey in reaching your struggling readers. This first lesson answers the question, how do kids learn how to read? It's all about the natural path that students go through to become good readers. Now remember, this is a path that we want all of our students to follow, and it happens really naturally for typical non-struggling readers. However, our struggling readers tend to get stuck at certain points along the way. And we'll go over those points in our next video tomorrow. But today, I just want to give you a big picture overview of the goal of where we want our students to be following that path. So let's take a look at where it all begins. The first step in our path is beginning phonemic awareness. This includes alliteration, rhyming, finding syllables, finding the beginning sounds of words, basically just being aware of phonemes. Phonemes are the little units of sound that make up the words that we say. So for cat, the phonemes are k, a, t. We put the phonemes together to make words. Phonemic awareness, then, is being aware of all of the little sounds or phonemes that are inside of words. Before young readers even start to recognize letters or read the ABCs, they need to be aware that sounds exist in the words that we say. Often this happens naturally without even teaching it. Children notice when words start with the same sound, like when you read the book Brown Bear, they hear the B sound repeated over and over again. Brown bear. Or they notice when words end in the same sound or rhyme, like in the sentence, the dog sat on a log with the frog. So naturally, the next step is learning letter names and sounds. Here is where you introduce them to each letter and tell them what sound it goes with. This step is basically just learning the names of letters and the sounds they make. Because they are already familiar with the sounds they learned in the previous stage, beginning phonemic awareness, when they learn the letters, they already know the sounds connected to it, so learning the letters feels natural and simple. The next step in our path is basic phonemic awareness. This is a little more advanced than beginning phonemic awareness. This step deals with blending and segmenting. Once students learn the letter names and sounds, they have a better understanding that words are made up of phonemes. They understand that written words are made up of these letters that they have learned. And those letters match the phonemes that make up spoken words. With this more concrete understanding that words are broken up into parts, students are ready to master blending and segmenting, or basic phonemic awareness. Blending is hearing isolated sounds strung together and being able to morph them into one word. For example, when they hear the sounds t, e, n, t, they can push those sounds together and then identify the word as tent. Segmenting is in the opposite direction and it's slightly harder. Segmenting is starting with a word and then breaking that word up into the sounds that it's made up of. For example, when students hear the word frog, they can say the sounds f, ah, g. So this pushing sounds together to make words and then breaking the words apart into sounds naturally prepares students to sound out the words that they encounter while they're reading. The next step in our path is phonetic decoding, which is seeing an unfamiliar word and using letter sound knowledge already developed to say the sounds each letter in that word makes. and then use blending, also already developed, to push those sounds together and say a word. In simple terms, it just means sounding out a word. So sounding out a word, phonetic decoding, same thing. For example, you can show a student the word hug, and then they can slowly say the sounds that each letter makes, g, and then identify the word as hug. Everything up until now has been pretty common sense. A lot of people think that's all you need to learn how to read. Students know how to sound words out. Now all they need is more and more practice so they get faster and faster and faster at sounding out words until eventually they're reading. However, there are some crucial steps going on behind the scenes. The next crucial step is advanced phonemic awareness, or phoneme manipulation. This includes the ability to hear a word and then change the sounds in that word to make new words. As most students practice sounding out words, advanced phonemic awareness is often gained naturally. As they get better and better at sounding out words, they get better and better at manipulating phonemes. There are 3 different skills included in advanced phonemic awareness. The first skill is addition. This is hearing a word and then adding a sound to it. So when they hear the word star and are asked to add a t to the end, they are able to say the word start. Then things get a little trickier with the second skill, deletion. This would be hearing the word think, being asked to take away the th, and saying the word ink. You can challenge them a bit more by asking them to take away interior sounds in the middle of words. So asking them to say the word slip without the oo. And then they would say sip. The last skill in advanced phonemic awareness is substitution. This is switching out one sound in a word for a different sound. For example, a student hears the word cart. You ask them to switch the k to a m, and they say mart. Again, you can switch out a beginning, middle, or ending sound. Another example is saying the word sled and asking them to switch the l to a p. They would then say the word sped. Once students are good at sounding the words out and they've gone all the way up to the advanced level of phonemic awareness, now they're ready for the next step, orthographic mapping. Step number 6 in our path is orthographic mapping. This is how you store new words into your brain for automatic retrieval. And this is what a lot of people don't know about. It's how students turn unfamiliar words into sight words they can recognize instantly. Basically, it's your mind's way of mapping the sounds in a word to the letters that represent them. We'll talk more about this later, but that's it in a nutshell. As students are able to recognize more and more words through orthographic mapping, they're able to read more and more fluently. Fluency is the next step in our path. It only comes after students have built up their store of recognizable words through orthographic mapping. Reading fluently means that a student can read the words effortlessly, at a natural pace, and with few mistakes. It also means reading with prosody, which is matching the tone of your voice to what the text is saying. and fluency bleeds into the next step in our path. The last step is comprehension. When students can read fluently and effortlessly, they are saving their brain power to focus on the meaning of the text instead of trying to figure out what the words are. Reading comprehension is the absolute goal of reading. We read for meaning. Even if we read at a perfect pace with no mistakes, it means absolutely nothing if we're not understanding what we're reading. We can only find meaning if we're focusing our brain power and attention on the meaning of the text instead of decoding words. So, as you can see, each step in the path builds off of the previous steps. You cannot jump to comprehension or fluency if some of the more basic steps are not mastered. Beginning phonemic awareness builds the foundation to recognize those sounds in letters. Practicing letters builds awareness that words are made up of those sounds that match the letters. Basic phonemic awareness, or blending and segmenting, prepares students to be able to put the sounds together that they read when sounding out a word. When students are sounding out words in phonetic decoding, they naturally build advanced phonemic awareness skills, addition, deletion, substitution. As they build these advanced phonemic awareness skills and sound words out, they store sight words into their brain through orthographic mapping. The more sight words they store through orthographic mapping, the more fluently they can read. And the more fluently students can read, the better they are able to glean meaning from the text and read with comprehension. And that, my friends, is how kids learn how to read. If it seems pretty simple, it really is for a majority of the kids. This process happens naturally for 70% of kids. It will happen regardless of which teaching method you use. It just clicks for these kids. But what about the other 30%? What goes wrong for them? Where do they fall off the path? We will dig into the answers to these questions in video number 2. You do not want to miss it. The things that we discuss are key in figuring out what your struggling readers need. I will see you in video number 2.